A girl was cursed. Any boys who got close to her would die in strange accidents. Over time, people started calling her a witch and stayed away from her. Since childhood, weird things often happened around Mi-jong. A boy tried to show his love in a playful way, but accidentally fell into a manhole under construction. Another boy shyly gave her candy on White Day, but got hit by a car on his way home. At first, Mi-jong thought these were just coincidences. Then in high school, the senior she liked got into Korea University. He happily gave her his study notes and promised to wait for her at college. The next second, he suddenly collapsed and started twitching. Mi-jong guessed he was stung by a hornet. Boys nearby rushed him to the hospital. Later, the senior moved to Seoul, and Mi-jong never saw him again. Soon, rumors spread that the senior got hurt because of Mi-jong. A boy stopped the gossiping girls and gave Mi-jong a bottle of milk, but the rumors still hurt her deeply. Mi-jong's mother died in childbirth. Her birthday was also her mother's death anniversary. To avoid making her feel guilty, her father only celebrated her birthday and gave her cash instead of gifts. He hoped she could make more friends and treat them to food. To keep her father from worrying, she lied about having friends, but the curse didn't stop. One day, all 12 boys in her class got food poisoning, while the girls were fine. Again, everyone looked at Mi-jong with suspicion. Even Mi-jong started noticing that accidents at school occurred more frequently, and most of those who were harmed were boys. After school, she waited for the rain to stop. A boy volunteered to walk her home. On the way, he nervously confessed his feelings. Suddenly, a bus passed by, almost splashing them with water. Mi-jong suddenly remembered the rumors about her curse, but the boy ran off shyly without waiting for her reply. Moments later, 2 loud thunderclaps shook the sky. The boy was struck by lightning and died. The whole school held a memorial for him. Mi-jong felt guilty. She watched the hearse slowly leave, thinking if he never met her, maybe he wouldn't have died. Not far away, Dong-jin silently watched her. He was the only one who noticed her face covered in tears. Classmates whispered that every accident at school was connected to Mi-jong. Every time someone got involved with her, bad things kept happening, like they were cursed. They even started calling her a witch. Dong-jin argued that judging the whole based on just a part was unfair. Just because accidents happened near her didn't mean she was the cause. Soon after, the school went on a picnic, and Dong-jin was in charge of taking photos. Through his lens, he saw Mi-jong reading alone, and secretly took her picture. During lunch, a boy gave Mi-jong a drink. She quickly stopped his confession and ran away in panic. Still, the boy ended up with a serious leg injury. Dong-jin saw Mi-jong stand up in fear, trembling all over. After the trip, he rushed to develop the photos. Looking at her close-up, he noticed she seemed unhappy. The next day, the injured boy came to school on crutches. He seemed to blame Mi-jong for his injury and told his friends to stay away from her. Over time, Mi-jong spoke less and became afraid of meeting people. Dong-jin noticed she always sat alone on a bench at lunch, under the harsh sun. Remembering his mother was the PTA president, he hurried to help at her store. After cheering his mother up, he suggested putting a sunshade in front of the school warehouse. His reason was that after playing soccer, sitting there in the sun could lead to skin cancer. His loose mouth got him a beating, but his mother still agreed. Seeing Mi-jong enjoying her lunch in the shade, Dong-jin felt satisfied. However, accidents, big and small, kept happening at school. All the victims were boys who had spoken to Mi-jong. Slowly, boys started avoiding her. Rumors spread like wildfire. Da-yoon even told everyone that Mi-jong's mother died in childbirth, calling her a cursed witch. At night, Mi-jong felt the most at peace. Her father saw her always studying alone in the room and explained he could afford to send her to tutoring. She proudly said she didn't need it and still got good grades, but her father still noticed she was troubled. Mi-jong smiled and seriously said, noting bad happened. In the days that followed, she attended school quietly and without drawing attention of herself. A boy felt sorry for how unfairly she was treated and comforted her, saying the accidents were just coincidences. Just then, some girls passing by and saw them talking. Mi-jong ignored him and walked away. The stubborn boy followed her and even confessed his feelings. At that moment, Mi-jong noticed the broken high-voltage box. Before she could warn him, the boy was hit by a snapping wire. Another tragedy happened. Now, everyone was convinced that she was a witch and stayed away from her. Only Dong-jin stood there, watching her sad face. Even the place where she used to sit was covered in insults. Inside the school, there was no place for her. Before leaving, she turned around as if sensing something. Dongjin was looking at her gently. He waited anxiously for the break, planning to walk up to her and say, "Hi, I'm Lee Dongjin." But Mi-jong never returned to school. Her father was angry she quit school without permission. She said nothing, hiding under the blanket and crying. To figure out the truth, Mr. Park went to ask her classmate Da-eun. She told him everything Mi-jong had gone through. At that moment, Mr. Park finally understood his daughter's pain. With red eyes, he packed her bag and lunchbox. Before leaving, he saw Dongjin cleaning the graffiti on her bench. Unlike the others, Dongjin never believed the rumors. One day, he would prove Mi-jong wasn't a witch. Mr. Park patted his shoulder and said, "Thank you." Mi-jong stayed in her room all day, and her father only reminded her to make sure to eat. She wished people would forget about her, but the rumors spread like mold in every corner of the village. Mr. Park got into a fight. A man blamed Mi-jong for his son's injury because of the rumors. Thinking about his daughter being slandered, Mr. Park felt heartbroken. He warned everyone if they spread lies again, he would turn this place upside down. However, some gossiping women told Mistress Oh to keep Dongjin away from Mi-jong. Mi-jong liked animals more than humans. She asked her father to buy cat food, but he said stray cats were unlucky. Mi-jong mumbled that they didn't bring bad luck, and she was no different. Mr. Park realized his word had hurt his daughter, so he went to Dongjin's family store, but they only sold fertilizer and pesticides, not cat food. Dongjin's mother gave him some of her son's cat food for free. Mr. Park didn't want pity, so he paid for it anyway. When Mi-jong received the cat food, she smiled from her heart for the first time. At that moment, her father felt truly happy. Soon, the senior students graduated. Dongjin's mother bought a fancy mink coat and took pictures with her son at the ceremony. But Dongjin only wanted to see Mi-jong. Meanwhile, Da-eun quietly left a graduation gift at the door. She seemed to want to apologize but ran away in shame. Dongjin was about to leave flowers at the door when it suddenly opened. Startled, he ran away in panic. Mi-jong opened the alumni book and saw her photo placed next to a group picture. Maybe this was Da-eun's silent apology. Mr. Park encouraged his daughter to continue studying. If she took the qualification exam, it was like getting a high school diploma, and she could still go to college. He wanted to take her to Seoul, far from this painful place. As he spoke, his periodontitis flared up again. He promised that once they moved to Seoul, he would see a dentist first thing. Encouraged by her father, Mi-jong regained hope and started studying again. When it was time to harvest potatoes, Mi-jong didn't want her father to work alone and went to the field help him. Suddenly, a venomous snake came out of the ground and bit her ankle. Mr. Park rushed over, but Mi-jong soon lost consciousness. When she woke up, her father was lying on the ground, barely alive. She realized he had sucked out the venom. But because of his periodontitis, the poison spread faster. Mi-jong screamed for help, but her father stopped her. If people saw this, they would blame her for his death. He told her to run, to get away from him. However, villagers started approaching. To let her father go in peace, Mi-jong lied and said no one noticed them. In the end, her father died in her arms. People called her a witch who even killed her own father and drove her out of the village. Dongjin didn't know about this. To prove Mi-jong wasn't a witch, he chose statistics as his major in college. A boy sitting in the back of the class caught everyone's attention. Kim always kept to himself and never talked to anyone. Students said he was a psychopath, but the moment Dongjin saw him, he felt a sense of familiarity. Kim reminded him of Mi-jong. Dongjin couldn't help but approach him and tried to befriend him. Kim picked up his tray and left without a word. Dongjin didn't give up. He first gave Kim potatoes from his neighbor's farm and then invited him to eat together. Kim was surprised, because when he didn't respond, people got the message and started avoiding him. Dongjin admitted that Kim reminded him of someone. He wasn't brave enough to do it in the past, and he didn't want to repeat the same mistake now. In the end, the two went to a restaurant together. Although they didn't sit at the same table, they became closer. Kim started to wonder about Dongjin's daily life. Dongjin openly shared that he worked 3 part-time jobs to help a friend buy textbooks. After finishing his lunch, he put on a uniform. He also worked at this restaurant. Over time, they became close friends. When summer break arrived, Dongjin returned to his hometown. He looked through his old high school photos, stopping at Mi-jong's picture. His mother talked about village rumors. A few months ago, the witch from school caused her father's death. The laundry shop owner's son visited her to comfort her, but on his way home, a wild boar hit him. Even Mistress O believed Mi-jong would bring bad luck and should be avoided. For the first time, Dong-jin shouted at his mother. He used statistics to explain that people get hurt or die every minute of every day, so everything was just a coincidence. They couldn't blame everything on Mi-jong. With that, he got ready to visit Mi-jong's house, but his mother stopped him, saying Mi-jong was probably gone. Months ago, the villagers agreed to kick her out. Now, the house was empty. Dong-jin sat against the door, feeling defeated. He took out his report, trying to prove Mi-jong wasn't a witch. But it was too late. A gust of wind blew away all the papers. At that moment, Dong-jin missed Mi-jong deeply. He realized nothing waits for anyone, especially love. The professor learned why Dong-jin studied statistics and praised his kindness and determination. But he also pointed out that his report was useless from the start. Dong-jin had already concluded Mi-jong wasn't a witch, and then used statistics to fit his narrative. The professor suggested that he verify all the questions in the checklist for a clearer result. Dong-jin followed the advice, ruling out random and inevitable events, focusing on one question: what was the common factor in all accidents? Looking back at every incident, he concluded that Mi-jong was always present. If the data was correct, there was only one possibility. Mi-jong really was a witch. Helpless, Dong-jin cried in the heavy rain, hating himself for failing to prove her innocence. Time had passed and everyone prepared for graduation. With the professor's recommendation, Dong-jin became a data miner and moved to Seoul. Kim became a detective. Not long after, Dong-jin got a project related to a casino. With just 5 seconds of observation, he could estimate a guest's age, wealth, and how often they visited. He focused on a 30-year-old office worker. He guessed the man leased an office tel in a small city, owned a domestic mid-sized car, and earned about 42 million won a year. Now the man was about to lose all his money. Following Dong-jin's order, a waiter took him to a fancy restaurant for a free meal and gave him a hotel voucher for his next visit. Some opposed this strategy, but Dong-jin believed it was better to manage customers to keep them using the casino continuously than let them lose everything and never return. This way, the casino could make more money in the long run. A chairman was intrigued and even considered investing in their company. Just then, the office worker sold his car for more gambling money. The chairman sighed, saying there were too many variables in life. He handed Dong-jin a business card and invited him to dinner sometime. When Dong-jin was about to go home, he found his car's windshield shattered. The dash cam showed the suspect checking his phone number before breaking the glass. The detective guessed it was someone with a grudge against him. While filing the report, the detective was confused about Dong-jin's job as a data miner. Dong-jin explained that he was an office worker who inferred information from vast data. For example, the two guys arguing behind them, he could tell they were family. Both had the habit of wiping bottle tops. Their clothes had the same water stains and white hairs. Just then, a woman holding a white puppy appeared. She apologized to the police and took her 2 mischievous sons home. The detective found Dong-jin's job fascinating. Before leaving, he promised to investigate the case properly. That night, Dong-jin was supposed to meet Kim. Kim said he might be late because he had just arrested a dangerous criminal. To let him concentrate on his work, Dong-jin lied, saying he was at a gathering. On the subway home, he saw a drunk guy confessing to a woman. To his surprise, her side profile looked familiar. It was Mi-jong, his high school crush. Once again, he was too afraid to approach her and just followed silently. They left the station and walked into a quiet alley. Dong-jin saw Mi-jong feeding stray cats and hid nearby. She muttered to herself, wondering how to live peacefully without meeting people. She really didn't know the way to live nor the way to disappear. After all these years, Mi-jong was still living a tough life. Dong-jin kept his distance and watched her go home. He believed meeting again after so long must have meaning. The next day, he searched online for the drunk man from the subway and found a video. After Mi-jong left, the man suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed. Dong-jin met with Kim and wondered if weird people existed in the world. For example, those who always bring bad luck to the team they supported, or those who break machines just by using them, or those who always find stores running out of stock right before their turn. Kim thought these were just coincidences, but Dong-jin believed some strange laws existed, causing certain people to be cursed throughout their lives. He felt helpless because he couldn't find a way to break the curse. That day, Mistress O called Dong-jin after her hospital checkup. She said sadly that she was sick. Dong-jin rushed her to Seoul for treatment. After many chemotherapy sessions, Mistress O started wearing a wig. Dong-jin secretly brought her beer to cheer her up. He promised to make lots of money and take her around the world. However, Mistress O knew her time was short and calmly shared her last wish. She wanted a colorfully decorated bier at her funeral, so she could meet her husband in a romantic way. She also planned to sell their house and shop, which would be less of a hassle for her son. But Dongjin decided to keep the house. It held all his memories with his mother. Then he was surprised to learn that years ago his mother bought Mi-jong's house. Back in the hospital, he thanked her, thinking she had helped Mi-jong out of kindness. However, Mistress O confessed a long-hidden secret. It was she who had joined the villagers in driving Mi-jong out of the village. While cleaning, Mistress O found Mi-jong's photo and worried her son might fall for her and get hurt. Driven by rumors, she made a wrong decision. Facing harsh words, Mi-jong first apologized, then promised to leave. Mistress O felt relieved and stopped the villagers from cursing. Before leaving, she looked at Mi-jong's thin figure and felt guilty. That night, Mi-jong missed the last bus. Feeling sorry for her, Mistress O drove her to the bus station. Mi-jong was grateful for the care. Learning she had nowhere to go, Mistress O bought her house to help her financially. Later, Mistress O wanted to apologize face-to-face, but never had the chance. Remembering her son insisting Mi-jong wasn't a witch, she asked him to pass on her apology if he ever saw Mi-jong again. Dongjin loved photography, but realized he never took a proper photo of his mother. Their last picture was at his high school graduation, where she wore the mink coat he disliked. Dongjin followed his mother's last wish and gave her a funeral with a colorfully decorated bier. While sorting her belongings, he found his unfinished reports. Years ago, they were thrown away at Mi-jong's house. Mistress O secretly picked them up. She didn't understand the complex formulas or error-filled statistics in the report, but she read them over and over. Until her death, she believed Mi-jong was innocent. Dongjin would prove that Mi-jong wasn't a witch, just as his mother had hoped. The next day, he studied a San Francisco police crime map that tracked time, location, and severity. The police used it to reassign patrol areas and personnel, and the crime rate decreased significantly. He planned to make a similar map for incidents related to the witch. If he could identify the variable that affects this pattern, he might predict and prevent future incidents. To solve Mi-jong's mystery, Dongjin quit his high-paying job and gave up the casino project, despite his boss's pleas. Mi-jong stayed indoors all day, living alone in her small rented room with 2 straw dolls. Thankfully, her friend Yoon-sil found her a translation job. Mi-jong didn't disappoint her, and always submitted her work on time. Life was simple, but peaceful. On the other side, Dongjin decided to rent a room in the building across from Mi-jong. He didn't care about the room's layout, just wanted the one above, which was already rented out. That room was directly across from Mi-jong's. Dongjin bribed the agent to find the tenant, and tried to convince him to swap rooms. The guy firmly refused. Dongjin didn't give up. He rented the room below and frequently visited the guy's convenience store to please him. He also helped him whenever needed and gave him gifts for moving. Finally, Dongjin offered to cover 3 months of rent and moving costs, and successfully swapped the room. Next, he sneaked into the opposite apartment building and confirmed which room Mi-jong lived in through mailboxes. Yoon-sil noticed him acting suspiciously and asked who he was looking for. Dongjin lied, saying he was going to the 3rd floor. Unfortunately, the 3rd floor was a bikini waxing salon. Under her strange look, he had no choice but to walk in. Yoon-sil visited Mi-jong, and they had a lively dinner. Mi-jong excitedly talked about a small Austrian town she read about while translating. She dreamed of walking freely in the streets like a normal person one day. Meanwhile, Dongjin got a call from the detective. He found the suspect who smashed his car. Lee owned a small paper cup factory and got a loan approved. But a change in the bank policy wouldn't allow him to get the loan, so he went bankrupt. He later found out that the loan system was developed by Dongjin's company. So, he chose Dongjin as his target for revenge. Before leaving the station, Dongjin asked which department handled streetlight repairs. The night he walked Mi-jong home, he noticed a flickering light at the alley entrance. When Dongjin got home, he was attacked. The attacker was Lee, the suspect the police were chasing. Dongjin didn't fight back and even stopped the convenience store guy from calling the police. Lee accused Dongjin of ruining his factory and leaving his workers homeless. After he calmed down, Dongjin took him out for a meal. He explained that his job was just calculating data for programs, but never thought it could hurt innocent people. Lee knew everything wasn't his fault. But whenever he thought about being separated from his wife and kids, He even had bad thoughts. He held on, because of his hatred for Dongjin. To help Lee, Dongjin asked the chairman to give him a job. In this days and age, most people only care about themselves. But Dongjin was different, and even tried to rescue others, which left a deep impression on the chairman. Kim got a report. A victim's home was wrecked, but there were no signs of forced entry. That meant the attacker was someone she knew. Kim advised the woman to apply for a protection order and wear a smart watch. If she pressed the button in danger, a appointed officer would rush to her. After taking the victim safely to her parents' house, Kim returned to the station and ran into Dongjin. They planned to eat together, but Kim suddenly got an urgent call. He rushed to the victim, but he was too late. The woman had lost too much blood and was just taken to the hospital. Kim felt guilty for failing to protect her. Late at night, Mi-jong stepped outside and was surprised to see the streetlights fixed. As usual, she went to the alley to feed stray cats. She muttered again that she really was like a witch. Dongjin hid nearby and heard her words. He became more determined to break her curse. The next day, Dongjin returned to his hometown. He found an old friend and asked her to gather others. He had something important to say. Then, he met the village chief and got the key to his old house. The chief suggested selling it if he wouldn't return often. Recently, the area where Mi-jong lived was being turned into a resort, which raised property prices. Dongjin suddenly thought of something and asked if any strange events had happened recently. The chief said no accidents had happened since Mi-jong left. The laundromat owner's son getting hit by a wild boar was the last one. That night, Dongjin met the victim to learn more. The man had felt bad for Mi-jong losing her father. He brought her some bread but was too shy to confess. He stayed for about 12 minutes. As soon as he stepped outside, a wild boar attacked him, leaving him badly injured. At night, friends gathered as planned. Dongjin gave each of them a book Mi-jong had translated. They were surprised but still called Mi-jong a witch. Dongjin told them he had seen Mi-jong recently. She was suffering because of the curse, and even staying alive was hard for her. He asked his friends to help gather data on all accidents around Mi-jong. He wanted to save this miserable girl. Da-eun was now a high school teacher. She easily took Dongjin to the school's records room. He took pictures of all the victim files, organized the needed data, and created a chart overnight. He found that during Mi-jong's time at school, accidents and deaths increased sharply. Most incidents happened around her. To find more clues, Dongjin decided to visit the injured students. The first was a boy who cut Mi-jong's rope and fell into the manhole. He liked her, but never confessed. The second was a boy who gave her candy and got into a car accident. He spent about 10 minutes with her, and also liked her. Dongjin continued visiting others, and found that all accidents happened within 10 meters of Mi-jong. After analyzing the data, he found a common pattern, and established a hypothesis. 1. Being in the same space with her is dangerous. 2. Holding a conversation with her is dangerous. 3. Being acquainted with her is dangerous. 4. Confessing your feelings to her is dangerous. 5. Breaking all of these laws will result in death. However, the precondition for all these hypotheses was that one must have feelings for Mi-jong. That night, Da-eun visited. She was shocked by Dongjin's findings. Feeling guilty, she admitted that she spread the witch rumor out of jealousy when she found out her crush liked Mi-jong. She asked Dongjin to pass on her apology, but Dongjin thought she should do it herself. Da-eun then mentioned that Mi-jong got into Korea University as a direct junior to the senior. She suggested Dongjin look into her college life. The next morning, Dongjin rushed to Seoul to meet the senior, but he learned nothing useful, only that Mi-jong dropped out soon after enrolling. Dongjin then visited a movie ticket checker who once confessed to Mi-jong. The man often saw her watching movies late at night. Attracted by her beauty, he confessed, but only ended up getting hurt. Dongjin was surprised the man didn't die, but soon he noticed the man's name tag and realized Mi-jong never knew his real name. Back home, Dongjin changed the third hypothesis to, if she knows your name, it's dangerous. He measured the distance to Mi-jong's house, about 10 meters. Just then, the tape measure malfunctioned and couldn't retract, while Mi-jong opened the window. He quickly pulled the tape back by hand. Mi-jong then stepped onto her balcony, enjoying the snowfall. As she slowly walked toward the edge, there was a sudden noise. Dongjin got cut by the tape measure. He confirmed that being within 10 meters radius of her was dangerous. To gather more data, Dongjin met Mi-jong's only friend, Yoon-sil. She immediately recognized Dongjin as the strange man from the apartment and thought he was stalking Mi-jong. Dongjin quickly showed his investigation data, saying he wanted to help Mi-jong live a normal life. After reading his detailed analysis, Yoon-sil slowly lowered her guard and started talking about Mi-jong's past. She first met Mi-jong during the student council recruitment. Mi-jong always wore black and stayed in the corner, but she still caught the attention of many boys. One day, she ran into the senior in the hallway. He got nervous as soon as he saw her and instinctively stepped back. His girlfriend thought they were once a couple and stormed off in anger. Later, a boy kept following Mi-jong, insisting on watching a movie with her. Even when she refused, he didn't give up and tried confessing, but he fell down the stairs. The witch's curse came true again. The senior's girlfriend was still angry because of Mi-jong. The senior had to publicly reveal that anyone who dated or liked Mi-jong would get hurt or die. The witch rumor soon spread throughout the university. During the final exams, Mi-jong finished early and left. The professor kept her under the excuse of giving guidance and wrote, "I love you" on the paper. Shocked, Mi-jong ran away. Afraid something might happen to the professor, she called an ambulance in advance, but they thought it was a prank. At that moment, Yoon-sil stopped her and invited her to have a meal, but Mi-jong was eager to leave. Yoon-sil noticed the professor sitting by the window, watching Mi-jong. Then he fell from the building. This incident confirmed the rumors that Mi-jong was a witch. She couldn't take it anymore and dropped out. Yoon-sil spent a long time searching for Mi-jong and finally found her in a remote village that was about to be demolished. The place was eerie, but she felt at ease. Yoon-sil felt sorry for her and asked why she dropped out. Mi-jong cut her off, saying she didn't need pity. Yoon-sil explained that it wasn't pity, and she just cared about her. Not wanting to bother Mi-jong, she left her phone number and walked away. A few months later, Mi-jong called, saying her house had been robbed. Yoon-sil scolded her for living in such a dangerous place. Mi-jong said it was the only way she could live alone. Yoon-sil felt sorry for the poor girl and decided to protect her like a sister. The next day, they rented a house with a yard. As Yoon-sil bargained with the landlord, Mi-jong smiled for the first time in a while. They became best friends. Dongjin and Yoon-sil measured the distance between the professor and Mi-jong. At the time of the incident, they stayed about 10 meters apart, talked, confessed, and knew each other's identity. This matched all hypotheses he established. Yoon-sil then introduced two boys who had incidents after being near Mi-jong. Both were in the same space as her, and about 10 minutes later, accidents happened. Dongjin confirmed his laws were correct. To avoid errors in the injured boy's memories, he decided to test the laws himself. From his observations, Mi-jong usually did translation work in the afternoon. During breaks, she drank coffee or ate instant noodles on the balcony. She worked until 2 a.m., then went out to feed stray cats when the streets were empty. Once a month, she randomly took a bus to the last stop and back. That was her way of traveling. Every Tuesday, a supermarket delivery man brought her daily supplies. Then, Dongjin got a part-time job at this supermarket. He also bought gear from the motorcycle shop. On Tuesday, Dongjin went to Mi-jong's home, excited. He rang the doorbell and started a timer. The moment Mi-jong opened the door, his heart raced. To delay time, he carried the boxes to her door, counted the items one by one, and made her sign the receipt. Mi-jong hadn't talked to strangers for a long time. As Dongjin left, she couldn't help but thank him. Downstairs, he checked the timer. Less than 10 minutes, and nothing happened. In the following days, he secretly visited her house. He always left before 10 minutes, and nothing went wrong. Then one day, he decided to stay past 10 minutes. As he walked downstairs, he missed a step and twisted his ankle. Back home, he adjusted the first hypothesis. Being within 10 meters radius of her for over 10 minutes is dangerous. Dongjin became her regular delivery man every Tuesday. Mi-jong slowly started talking to him. At checkout, she wanted to pay by card, but Dongjin didn't bring the card reader. She went inside to get cash. With 10 minutes almost up, Dongjin got nervous. Luckily, Mi-jong paid on time. He rushed downstairs and almost got hit by a motorcycle. Then the apartment sign loosened and fell toward him, injuring his wrist. He guessed there was a limit on conversation. Another Tuesday, Mi-jong grabbed a drink but saw a different delivery man. Disappointed, she carried the box and checked items alone. To protect himself, Dongjin bought stronger armor and a helmet. Fully geared up, he returned to Mi-jong. Seeing him again, she smiled and happily checked the items with him. Dongjin counted the exchanges during their conversation carefully. Before leaving, they had spoken 9 times. Mi-jong noticed his wrist and asked if he got injured after coming here. Dongjin lied, saying he got hurt while exercising. Seeing her relieved face, he forgot how many times they exchanged words. Another incident happened. His motorcycle slipped, and he fell. This time, he confirmed that having a conversation that goes beyond 10 exchanges is dangerous. Yoon-sil visited him at the hospital and warned him to stop. If Mi-jong learned his name, his life could be in danger. But only Dongjin knew. He liked her enough to risk everything. A month later, his injuries healed. Today was Mi-jong's bus trip day. He followed her from a distance, got on the same bus, and sat in the last row, about 11 meters away from her. Dongjin enjoyed the trip, wishing for a traffic jam so the moment could last longer. On the way back, Mi-jong gave her seat to an old lady. Their distance shrank to 5 meters. Worse, the bus got stuck on a bridge due to heavy traffic. Dongjin anxiously checked the timer. Suddenly, strange lightning flashed in the sky. A truck nearby carried sharp steel pipes. Realizing the danger, he jumped out of the window. At that moment, Mi-jong opened her window and called his name. Now, he had been within 10 meters radius of her over 10 minutes, and she knew his name. Dongjin remembered that there was never a report of lightning striking the Han River in winter. He looked at Mi-jong, smiled, and then jumped. In high school, Dongjin often looked at Mi-jong without meaning to. Over time, she noticed him too and knew his name on his uniform tag. After graduation, she knew he had looked for her and later found his photo in the alumni book. However, when she saw him again, it was as he jumped off the bridge. Luckily, the ambulance arrived in time, and he was taken to the hospital. Mi-jong guessed he did it because of her. She anxiously searched the news and felt relieved when she saw he was out of danger. Meanwhile, Yoon-sil rushed to the hospital and angrily told him to stop. However, Dongjin still asked her for a favor. He needed to confirm a variable. What would happen if Mi-jong loved someone? The next day, Yoon-sil took Mi-jong on a trip. She called Dongjin and left the phone on the side. Then she asked Mi-jong if she had ever liked someone. Mi-jong thought for a moment and remembered her first love. It was the senior from church. He was an older guy she had known since they were young. She went to church every week just to see him. One day, she saw him buying epilepsy medicine at a pharmacy. Afraid she would expose his secret, he started avoiding her. When the senior graduated, he gave Mi-jong his study notes, but got stung by a hornet. Worried, she bought epilepsy medicine, but didn't dare to give it to him. Years later, when Mi-jong got into Korea University, the senior came to congratulate her, but he had no memory of the study notes. At that moment, she gave up on her feelings for him. During their conversation, Dongjin noticed the senior met all the conditions, but wasn't in danger. He rushed home and found the study notes Mi-jong had thrown away. The next day, Dongjin met her senior again and asked why he lied. The senior admitted he had fainted because of an epilepsy attack that year. He was grateful to Mi-jong for lying for him, but he never asked her to do that. Dongjin was furious. Not only did the senior sacrifice Mi-jong to hide his shame, but he also spread rumors that she was a witch. Dongjin pulled out the study notes. On the last page was the senior's confession to Mi-jong. He broke all the laws yet lived fine. But Dongjin became this mess just wanting to exchange one word with her. Back home, he sadly wrote "stalker" on the wall and pinned his own photo. Now, he understood. The only variable was Mi-jong's heart. Only the man she loved could escape the curse. Dongjin decided to bet everything on this final variable and make her fall for him. In the days that followed, Dongjin worked out like crazy. When everything was ready, he texted Yoon-sil and Kim, left his phone, and then headed to Mi-jong's house. He rang the doorbell, pretending to be the delivery guy to trick her into opening the door. Dongjin told her about the efforts he made recently. Mi-jong interrupted him and warned him not to say anything. Dongjin reassured her that it wasn't her fault. He wanted to say this to her himself a long time ago. He then placed gifts from their hometown on the ground and hoped her do whatever she wanted. This time, Dongjin broke the law and spoke more than 10 exchanges. He walked down the street, dragging his suitcase, carefully avoiding any accidents. Suddenly, a truck sped straight toward him. Mi-jong opened the gift and found a USB drive inside. Dongjin had returned to his hometown and taken photos of her old house. Everything looked just like she remembered. The USB also contained a video of Yoon apologizing. She admitted that, as a jealous child, she spread rumors about Mi-jong being a witch, causing her to be isolated and forced to leave home. Mi-jong had waited a long time for this apology. Now, she could finally let it go. Meanwhile, the police had a lead on the wanted criminal. Sensing danger, The man tried to escape. A police officer was stabbed in the leg by glass while trying to stop him. Luckily, Kim arrived just in time. The killer mocked the victim, saying she must have seduced the officer but was beaten even harder. In the end, Kim was suspended for excessive force. He went to the hospital and told the victim's mother the criminal had been caught. 2 weeks later, an official met Kim to discuss his transfer. She secretly handed him a drink, shyly hinting that she liked him. Yoon-sil, unable to reach Dong-jin, went to the police station to ask Kim for help. Kim's last contact with Dong-jin was the night he arrested the criminal. When he called back, no one answered. Only after Yoon-sil mentioned it did he realize Dong-jin was missing. Kim tracked down Dong-jin's former boss and found out where he lived. He then visited the agent, the convenience store guy, the supermarket owner, and the chairman to gather information about Dong-jin. Back at the apartment, Kim noticed a clue on the bookshelf. All the books were translated by Mi Jong. In her resume, there was a travel documentary produced by Yoon-sil. Curious, Kim asked how Yoon-sil knew Dong-jin, but she asked if he believed witches existed in the world. Kim suddenly realized that Dong-jin's message meant he had gone to Mi Jong. They rushed to Dong-jin's place and checked his computer for clues. Kim opened a website that required a username and password. He looked at the writing on the glass and entered it as the username. Then, he remembered Dong-jin had always studied witches in college and wrote a report. He tried to enter Dong-jin's student ID as the password, and it worked. The documents inside recorded Dong-jin's recent life-risking test results. In the closet, there were 3 pieces of damaged armor. Late at night, Dong-jin's phone alarm went off. It was Mi Jong's usual time to feed the stray cats. Kim followed her alone. After measuring the safe distance, he started a timer and spoke to her. After 10 exchanges, Kim said he knew better than anyone the story about dying if someone approached her. At the same time, Yoon-sil found the documents named Kim Jung-hyuk Incident Report Data. One of them was about a recent victim. Kim, like Mi Jong, was cursed. Any woman who got close to him either got hurt or died. Yoon-sil appeared across the street, calling Kim's name. She became interested in this poor man. At this time, they stayed 10 meters apart. The next day, the female officer was injured due to an accident. It seemed Kim's curse also kept hurting people around him. Mi Jong heard the doorbell and eagerly went downstairs. But it was Kim. He brought Dong-jin's first report from 10 years ago, denying the existence of the witch. "You are not a witch." That was what Dong-jin always wanted to tell Mi Jong. For the first time, Mi Jong visited Dong-jin's place. From his window, she could see her own home. She sat at his computer and looked through his documents. Kim told her that Dong-jin never cared if she was a witch. He spent years researching just to find a way to love her. He even substituted himself as the final variable. Maybe only Mi Jong knew where Dong-jin was. The next day, Yoon-sil came to the police station saying Mi Jong was missing too. Kim wasn't surprised. Watching her talk non-stop, he noticed she was interested in him, so he kept a safe distance. Since childhood, strange things always happened around him. To avoid his curse, he chose to live alone, until Dong-jin appeared. From the start, Dong-jin knew Kim was cursed too, so he kept approaching Kim. He tried to save not just Mi Jong, but also Kim. He found that the 5 laws applied to both of them. So, his final advice to Kim was that he must love. Now, Kim needed a little time to take the first step, bravely. Mi Jong arrived in Austria to see the place she had always dreamed of. Dong-jin, who knew her best, was already waiting for her. While investigating his disappearance, Kim had found his exit records long ago. The two had spent more than 10 minutes together. However, Dong-jin still firmly said the words he had long wanted to say, "I love you." Suddenly, dark clouds covered the sky and thunder roared. He got up and left, ready to confirm the final variable. Mi Jong stopped him and said she had been thinking about him during the trip, worrying about his safety. She studied his data and found something he didn't know. People who liked her would have something bad happen to them when they drifted away, but when they were with her, nothing ever happened. She begged Dong-jin to stay by her side, then finally said, "I love you too." Suddenly, the sky cleared up, and they held each other tightly. The witch's true heart was the only way to break the curse. Kim and Yoon-sil still kept a 10-meter distance. She stepped forward, and he stepped back. He feared that the laws Dong-jin discovered might not work for him. But Yoon-sil wasn't afraid. After confessing, she got on the bus. Just then, Dong-jin sent Kim a message. Final law, never stray far from her side. Kim immediately called Yoon-sil and ran after the bus as fast as he could. No one knew if this was really the last law. But as long as two people love each other, they will always find a way. Because love conquers all.